Hey guys, Jiorno here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a loop inspired by If Looks Could Kill by Destroy Lonely. So to start off making this loop, I changed my BPM to 135, just a little bit slower than the normal 140, and I'm going to be making it in G minor. So first thing I started with, of course, was the electric guitar. For this guitar, I'm using Contact Electric Sunburst. I'm using the Electro Darkness preset. So overall, this guitar is really simple. It's kind of just arpeggiating two chords. So basically, I'm using the same top line from both of these and just moving these notes here. So it goes from a G minor to a D minor, and then I've just got an F to kind of contrast back up into the G. So a really good tip for making these kind of guitar melodies is put down your first few chords, normally as the one, make an arpeggiation and copy and paste it over, and then the next or the last two chords, you want to change the bass notes. So it's still the same top line, it's just a different bass note. And especially when you use one that isn't already in the chord, it creates a bit of tension, and I've used that on our last chord here to go back into the G minor, which is the one, which is the tonic of the scale. This is what it sounds like by itself. So the only sort of effects I have on this guitar is just an EQ getting rid of most of those low end kind of frequencies and then boosting a bit of those highs. This is just because I'm gonna put a lot of other instruments in that contain a lot of bassy sounds, especially if you're gonna put drums on it. You just don't want the guitar taking up the entire frequency space. And then following that electric guitar, same preset, but just a muted pluck. I've just put this in, which again, just follows those same bass notes. This is what it sounds like on its own. So whenever I make guitar melodies, any form of guitar melodies, whether it's hyperpop or anything like that, especially these kind of melodies, I always put a low pluck. It just keeps a lot of the rhythm. The next thing I added onto this melody was this lead preset. I don't know how to say that, but it's in the high-tech sound kit. All I did for effects on this one, there's no EQ. I've just put Portal on it, and this is one of my favorite presets. I can't remember what bank it came out of. It adds like little delay kind of accents. This is what it sounds like by itself. And that's just meant to be a background sound, kind of just backing up everything and adding a bit of ambience. The next thing I added after that was this Omnisphere texture backwards paintbrush looper. This is what it sounds like. So I mainly added this sound for the little high-end kind of brush that it has, but the pad's really nice as well. It just adds another layer basically. This preset has no effects. I did turn the stereo up just to give it a bit of a wider sound for both ears. Next thing I added was this kind of piano part. It's just a contrast from the guitar, and it could be used as like a verse. So it does look really crazy, but basically broken down, it's again our same bass notes up 2 octaves. It's the same chords as before, so G minor, D sharp minor, and then the G minor, but with the bass note, the F. It's the exact same chords, but I've added a lot of top line melodies. The best way I can kind of explain what I've done in terms of the top line melodies is I've kind of followed a flow. So if you break it down and have a look at each few individual notes, it's constantly going down. So you can see these 3 notes here, it's got a downward motion. These 5 notes here also have a downward motion. This little flare, it goes up and then right back down. And then again, it's same thing. It always has that downward motion. When you put downward motion onto your melodies, especially pianos and stuff like that, it adds a bit more emotion and kind of sadness or melancholy vibes, and that's kind of what I wanted to go for this Destroy Lonely loop. And then into this second part, I've just put another little top line melody, which is the G, the root note. It goes down 1 note in the scale to F, and then it goes down 2 to D. So I use that a lot of times in my piano melodies. It's just a really nice sounding descent. And if you do listen to a lot of my loops and melodies, you'll know that I put this in almost all the time. So on this piano, all I've put is Valhalla reverb. I've just changed the mix pretty low down, only at 24%. The decay's at 3 seconds, and then whenever I put vintage verb on it, I always bring up the low cut because I don't really want all those bass frequencies echoing. So this is what the piano sounds like on its own. Another really good tip for adding pianos and creating emotion is play with the velocities. I know it sounds really boring and it doesn't really sound like it does much. Depending on what piano you're using, I'm using Contact, the Gentleman piano. It came with my interface, but using a piano that's really velocity sensitive and you can adjust the hardness and softness of the key clicks, it really makes a difference than if you were to just have everything at the same tone. On that piano, I do have a EQ on it as well, just raising some of the highs and getting rid of a lot of those lows, because in those lower kind of octaves, the piano gets really muddy, especially with all of our other instruments and pads. The next thing I added was this pad. I have just copy and pasted from the piano MIDI. All I did was get rid of the duplicate bass notes that I had because I don't want those bass notes being in the pad and also the piano and also the guitar and everything else, because it muddies up everything. I kind of just want like a little ambient reverse-ish kind of effect with this pad swelling and changing a lot. This is what it sounds like by itself. I always find that a really good way to add ambience into your melodies, especially if you have a piano, is just copying the preset down and layering it with a pad. Just sometimes I'll bring it up an octave, or like in this case, I got rid of those bass notes because I don't want them echoing around. And this is just the Eternal Swells preset in Omnisphere. It's a default preset. The next thing I added was this Serum lead by I Am Synthetic in his Play Serum bank. It's kind of just repeating these few notes. And then I have copy and pasted it and brought it down an octave. Playing it by itself in the higher register, I didn't feel like it filled up enough space, because this is only like a little counter melody. It doesn't really come up that much in the loop, and I wanted it to fill in a bit more space than it did, so I did copy and paste it down. I also put this EQ on it just to get rid of a lot of that low end, just because within the mixing of the loop, there is again a lot of low frequencies and I don't want them all clashing. I want mainly either the guitar, the piano, or the pad to take up those frequencies. I don't want a lead to be muddying that up because the lead isn't there to be in those low kind of registers, at least for this melody here. This is what the leads sound like by themselves. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Make sure to like and leave a comment on what other tutorials you guys would like to see next. I also have a growing Discord community where you can download this loop and a lot of others that I've made. So make sure to check that out. Anyway guys, happy producing and I'll see you in the next one.